Well, good evening, and thank you all for joining us on another edition of the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. I'm Naima Latif, and we're excited because we're introducing you to another fabulous new host. And this is an opportunity that you don't want to miss to talk to journalist, investigative reporter, talk show host, and veteran in the business of investigating civil rights and justice all across this nation. You've heard her, you've seen her, you've read her stories. We'll be talking to the Chinta Strausberg, known, of course, for her fiery coverage of the events that shape our lives. And she's joining the Female Solution family with a new show every Friday night. You're going to watch On the Case with Chinta Strausberg. So we'll be right back. And you stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment. And we want you to get your pen and paper ready to answer those questions, ask those questions, type in those questions so you can be informed. Get on the case with Chinta Strausberg. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
And let us greet our guest, soon to be host, Chinta Strausberg. Thank you so much for joining us today to get the audience ready for an exciting new show. We're excited because we know the kind of work that you've done over the years. And for those who may not be as literate, they may not remember the days of course, the Chicago Defender and now the Crusader. And I believe probably every publication in Chicago has bore your name at some point. So naturally, we want our viewers to be prepared for some shows that will be quite informative, especially when it comes to getting them involved in what is happening in the world and helping them to see how important these events they see in the news are in affecting their daily lives. So for those who perhaps haven't heard yet, give us a rundown, a bit about your background, your experience in the news, journalism, the reporting industry.
Well, first of all, thank you so very much for having me as part of the Female Solution. And it is an honor to be here. I began, when did I begin? I began writing when I was really a child. My dad told me to come into the living room and sit down by the couch and look at this program. And I thought that's very strange because he never asked me to do that before. So it was a show about cars because he would have to have a car every year. He had to have a brand new car, but he wanted this show to make a story about the car that he wanted, and I had to write a letter to the company. And about 2 weeks later, he said, "Come and watch the show again." I said, "Oh, okay." It was really boring, so I watched it, and there was my letter on the TV, and I said, "Wow, that's pretty powerful." And I was in grade school at the time. So I began writing. My grandmother had me to read the newspaper to her and to listen to the radio. She would prefer that I listen to the radio so that I can use my mind. And that's why I love radio so much. And so then in high school, um, my English teacher had us to write something in 10 minutes. So I wrote something and she called me up to the front of the room and she said, I want you to read this. And I said, what? So I read it and everybody stood up and clapped. And I thought, this is really getting strange. So, so then when I got out of school, I got this job as a proofreader copy editor at a health association, and it was quite boring because I had like 6 employees, and 3 of the women were giving me heck because I demanded perfection. So at night, I saw this newspaper, the Hyde Park Herald newspaper, and it said wanted a newscaster. Now I didn't have any training for to be a newscaster, but I went there at WSSD Radio. It was then located at 71st and Jeffrey. And so they said, read this copy. And I said, okay. So I read the copy and they said, you're on in 5 minutes. I went, what? I don't have any copy. And he says, you'll think of something. And I did. And so after that, I did the hourly news when I got off work. And then they gave me a talk show once a week. And it was called Talking Politics, of course. And so from that, I met everybody. I met Harold Washington, Susan Catania, Richard Newhouse, all those really good people. And so I started writing stories for the South Shore Scene newspaper, which is no longer in existence. And that caught the eye of the Chicago Defender. And they started calling me to join them. And so I just wrote a couple of articles and they printed them and they paid me a big old fee of $10. So I was happy to get that and proud to see my work. But before that, that was the Defender. And so when I got into college, Roosevelt University, I had this awesome teacher, Norman Mark. You may remember him from Channel 5. He was a commentator and he was just crazy about me. And he told the class, if you get something published, you get an A automatically. So I said, okay. So I wrote stories and I sent it to the Chicago Daily News, no longer in existence. They started buying my stories, and it was amazing. And I got $25 savings bond, so people started calling me savings bond lady. So I got a raise from the Defender. Okay, and then I kept working the 2 jobs. The job at the association ran out, and so the Defender started calling me, and I joined the Defender, but they didn't hire me right away. And Joy Darrell, bless her heart, she was the managing editor at the time, and she told me to just keep coming and they will put me on the payroll. 6 months went by, almost 6 months. And I said, look, I've almost gone through my savings. If you don't hire me, and it wasn't up to her, it was up to the big bosses. I said, I'm leaving. And I came in as a published writer, a broadcaster. And so I'm thinking, well, what's the problem? Well, I found out that somebody didn't wanted to find out how the Black community would react to someone with a name like Chinta Strausberg. And I was highly offended about that, but I wanted to write for a Black newspaper. So they finally put me on at $5,000 less than what I was making, but I said, this is okay. And I stayed there for 23 and a half years. I covered so many beats. And John Sinstag wanted only me to write his politics. So it was politics, civil rights, and national news as well, and the UN. And that's how I got started. And then while I was there, I did a column for the Dollars and Cents magazine. And also, I worked with John Davis, who had left CBS, and he was at V103, and we did the news together in the morning.
Mm.
So I've just done a lot, and I'm not through. I think I will die writing. And
Well,
on my tombstone, I want you to put on deadline.
oh, that would be so funny.
When my family calls me, they always, before they say anything, they said, "Are you on deadline?" Yes, I am on deadline. We thought so. You're always on deadline. I said, "Call me back later." That's
Well,
really, I'm
that's the
serious.
life of a
On my
reporter.
tombstone, I want Chinta Strausberg on deadline.
On deadline. All right, y'all. We gonna make sure that's on her tombstone.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. But I remember the days on the Defender. It was like you wrote that whole newspaper
And
every
people had
day.
problems. Yeah, but people had problems with that. And when I was there, I found out that the West Side bought more newspapers than the South Side, but they
Wow.
didn't have any news. So I suggested to Johnson Stack, because he was my boss, I said,
Hmm.
we need a West Side story. And he said, okay, you're going to write it? I said, sure. So the managing editor said, well, everybody has to contribute, but they didn't. So it looked like I wrote the whole newspaper. And then when he passed, they stopped it because they said it was just too much Chinta Strausberg in the newspaper.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it's really interesting that they would blame you because other people aren't stepping up. I mean, the thing is, and I remember, of course, I know you're driving now, but I remember you when you were getting around on a bus and you'd be like 4 or 5 different places a day, and then the next day the whole paper was, well, Chinta Strausberg covering this, and then Chinta Strausberg covering that. And it was like all different sides of time of the town, and I'm like, how is she doing this? Because I
CTA.
you were like all over the city
Yeah.
and covering 5, 6 different events a day, and then they'd be in the paper, and you must be on some kind of vitamins, superwoman, because I mean, you were basically covering news from morning till night and a whole newspaper full of stories. I don't know if they'd have had more than one page if it hadn't been for you.
Yeah, a lot of times they took my name off the stories, and
Oh,
which that happens a lot. But the reason I left the Defender, because I really love that paper, was
mhm.
because when John Sinstack died, Tommy Paku took over, and he began to chop my stories down to 2 paragraphs.
Oh
No
no.
byline, chopped it to 2 paragraphs. And I was very, very upset about that. And when I told him, I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, you're upset about your name being taken off." And I said, "Yes." So he goes, "Well, what are your initials?" So I told him CBS. I came back the next day. He had chopped it down to 2 paragraphs and put CBS at the bottom. And I was furious. And
CBS. Oh,
Lieutenant
that's
Governor Lieutenant Governor Pat Quinn had been calling me for a year saying, "I'm saving this salary for you. I want you on my staff." And so he called me the day when Tommy Baku had done that like 3 days in a row. And I finally said yes. And, and Pat said, "What did you say?" And I said, "Yes, I'll come with you." And
ooh.
so that's why I left the Defender.
Well, it was definitely their loss because the absence was felt. A lot of things that just didn't get covered, a lot of events that we didn't see anymore. So it makes a difference. It makes a difference when somebody really has their ear to the ground and they are able to get those interviews, get those quotes, be at those key places. And they apparently just didn't have anybody who had the hustle to do that after you left. That's what I saw.
Well,
It
if you're there for the money in the black press, it's not the right motive to keep you going, because we're struggling in the black press. I write for the Chicago Crusader now, and they're struggling. And I always ask people to get a subscription. It's only $35, and it's just it's hard, but it's my passion.
Well, that it's wonderful to have a passion. But I want to take a look at how this whole industry is evolving and how that's affecting the black press. We got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back. And if you are interested in talking to Chinta Strausberg as she goes on the case, then you need to be here next Friday night, 7 p.m., because you are going to have a fantastic time really getting the inside story from a veteran journalist in the business. She'll be bringing us people that you need to know. So we'll be right back after this quick break. We want you to stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be right back. We're introducing On the Case with Chinta Strausberg. We'll be right back after this brief message. So stay with us. And we are back. You're listening to and watching the Female Solution Global Radio TV show. I'm Naima Latif, and I'm excited to introduce to you a new Female Solution host you're going to hear and see on the case with Chinta Strausberg. And every Friday evening, you'll get an opportunity to get some insight about what's happening in the world. We need our voices in the news business, and you've told a fabulous story. I think a lot of people don't really appreciate those pioneers who paved the way when it comes to the news business, and how it really was a fight to get into, whether it's the white owned press, the black owned press, but news in general. We've had to fight to tell our story. Now, you mentioned about how many of the publications are struggling. And of course, we're part of the NNPA, National Newspaper Publishers Association, with Dr. Ben Chavis and so many others around the country. And we know that a lot of times our newspapers might be antiquated if they did not update equipment as the digital age arose. A lot of our publications didn't keep up. What do you see has as the industry, the news industry has evolved? What do you see that is happening with the Black press? Do we have more that are taking advantages of the new technology? Do we have some that are still kind of stuck in the old ways? Are we struggling because we haven't evolved with the industry? What do you see?
Well, it's not that they haven't evolved. It's the lack of funds. They just don't have the money. Advertising is taking ads is like the lifeline of a Black newspaper. We don't get the ads. That most of the ads go to the white press, and they use the excuse of, well, what's your circulation? Well, of course, we can't match the Sun Times and the Tribune when it comes to circulation. So they say, well, it's not cost effective for us, so we don't get the ads that they do. And that's the problem. If you don't have the ads, you can't hire people, you can't keep people. Um, it's sad. It's not really fair either.
Well, this is what I see, and this is what I envision, because we have been using that model for a long time. Advertising from businesses pay for the cost of printing and the staff that puts the paper together. But if you don't have major corporate ads, you struggle. And so many of our businesses, they don't see how to fit advertising into their budget. But if you don't advertise, no one knows you're there, so you don't make any money. So there's that situation. I know that there was a time when you could count on major Black companies, especially like in Chicago, the Chatham business community, very wealthy community. We had Independence Bank, Seaway Bank, and these major institutions that could stabilize a newspaper with a regular advertisement. But then, as things begin to change, some of our major Black institutions failed. People really were dependent on companies like Soft Sheen, that financed a whole lot of things. I mean, financed a whole campaign that elected a mayor.
That's
We
right.
know the history of that. So when the economics changed for us,
Mhm.
and the white corporations couldn't be guilted into setting aside money for their so-called minority advertising or whatever they designated it as, we didn't have a backup plan. And so I saw different people try different things. I know Lou Palmer, for those who are really way back in the day, he had tried to do, what was his paper, Black Express. I think he was going to do a thing of, I don't know, subscriptions or something different other than advertisements, but that didn't quite work. So I see that we have to develop a different model of financing our news industry. And now that the news industry has expanded, I'm noticing that the newspapers, Sun Times, Tribune, everybody has other outlets. They have other mediums, such as, they've got their internet, they've got their digital copies, they've got other ways of reaching the public, because today's readers are getting a lot of their information from
Social media.
social media.
Yes. Well,
And
the Chicago Crusader has a online edition, but still, they need subscribers. And well, we can kind of point the finger at corporate America, but we have to point the finger to us as Black
that's the
people,
point. We
because
have to
you know
finance
I
whatever.
am a granddaughter of my grandfather had 8 businesses and several income producing properties. Back then, we we supported each other. Blacks supported each other, but today we don't do that. We'd rather go downtown and have lunch at a white restaurant, but not the Black restaurant, as if the Black restaurant were inferior or something like that. And that really hurts, because I grew up watching African Americans uh, support each other. My grandfather helped others stay in business. So it's painful to watch us in the state that we are in, Black America is in today. And we have to blame ourselves. We are killing each other. We are disrespecting each other. Our parents are not taking their children to church. They have abandoned the rock. The Black church has been the rock. And our children are growing up faithless instead of
Well,
faithful. And
well,
that
speaking of the
hurts.
rock, yes. Well, speaking of the rock, there we have 316 magazine, of course, for
Yes.
those who may not know what the reference is. Explain the name 316.
That's from the Bible, a very famous verse. And I started helping. Kent Hunley is really the publisher, and I'm the editor in chief. And I normally don't like to take pictures, but when I walked in the office and he said, I need someone for the cover, and I said, well, put me on. I was just kidding. He said,
There
and I
you go.
was wearing and I was wearing that dress when I walked in there. I did not know, and I just got my hair done. So he said,
Oh,
this is perfect. And so he says, and I need a cover story to go with it. Well, back in 1999, Naima, I knew something was wrong with me. So I went to the doctors, and I had 3 internists. And they told me that I went a couple of times to them, and they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. So they said that nothing is wrong with you, that a bottle of Maalox or Pepto Bismol couldn't cure. And I said, look, I'm a daughter of a nurse. I am in tune with my body. My mom taught me that something is wrong. Go and get me another diagnosis. So they came back and they agreed that I needed to see a psychiatrist. I fired them. I found Dr. Daniel Litoff, thank God. He believed in me, first of all, and he found an almost 6 pound tumor growing in the backside of my stomach. All those x rays they took at Grant Hospital, which is no longer, and St. Joseph, it was malignant. Had I not found Dr. Litoff, I never would have seen Christmas of 1999. But while I was in the hospital, Naima, we were in the process of selling the Chicago Defender, and our publisher was Colonel Eugene Scott, a wonderful man, and he
Yeah.
said um, he didn't know what was wrong with me. He just knew I was in the hospital, and he said we need some stories from you. And I said, you realize I'm in the hospital? He said, yeah. I said, well, I kind of figured you would. So I have my computer with me and my tape recorder. And so I asked the nurse if I could use their fax machine for press releases. And they said, sure. So I had nurses coming in there giving me press release from the mayor's office. Jackie Hurd called me. And I did stories. And one day, I got the operation, and then I had to take vitamins and eat and come back to see if they got it all out. They didn't. They missed it, and it was really growing, growing, growing. So I had to go through all this again, and they needed another story. I had written like 4 stories, and they said, well, we need another one. And I said, okay. So I called Congressman Danny Davis, and I said, Congressman, I need an exclusive. And he said, I thought you were in the hospital. And I said, I am. He said, okay. Which hospital? And I said, Illinois Masonic. And I said, but I don't want you to come here. I want you to just give me a story, okay? And I said, here's the fax number. You got a fax in the hospital room? And I said, no, it's in the nursing station. So he goes, okay.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I'm not
So
working.
about 20 minutes later, I hear these nurses screaming. And I thought, there's a terrorist on the floor. What's going on? And I'm in my bed, with my gown on and my laptop, my computer and the laptop. In walks Danny Davis. I don't believe it. I don't, with that deep voice. And I went, oh my God, this man, he sees me in my gown. I was so embarrassed. I got a good story. I tease him about that to this day.
Oh my! I mean, you have lived some kind of life, I must say. This is, but you talk about dedication. I mean, in her hospital bed, and the congressman comes down there. It's like, I don't believe this woman's doing it, but there you have it. That's what it takes, and that's the kind of spunk where no matter what happens, you're gonna always be working somewhere.
On the case.
Yeah, on the case. Always on the case. Yes.
Yeah.
But that is fascinating. And I know you probably got a million of those kinds of stories. But that's really what it takes. That kind of dedication where you are going to get that information, because information is power. And so many times we make wrong decisions because we're not informed.
Mm-hmm. And I have also covered events, press conferences with my colleagues. And when I read what they wrote the next day, some of them, I ask myself, was I still at the same press conference? And that's when I realized that they write from their own perspective.
Yes.
And like I was talking to this one doctor a couple of days ago. I had to go to the doctor, and we were talking about that. And she said, it depends on how you were raised. And I said, yes. So if you were not raised around African Americans, or if you were not raised around other people, you don't really understand them. You really don't.
That is true. That's true. And that's why having us in the business is so critical. Other people don't understand our culture. They don't understand our history. They don't understand our emotions. And so when they see things, they see it from an outsider's perspective.
And it may not be that they're racist, they just don't know.
They just don't know.
Right. Like my cousin, was Milton Lee Olive III. He was the first African American to receive the Medal of Honor during the Vietnam War, 18 years old. He spotted on October 22nd, 1965, he spotted a live grenade in the jungles in Vietnam, picked it up, put it on his stomach, and allowed it to explode. He saved the lives of 4 men, 2 blacks, 2 whites, and today all of them have great grandchildren. Only one is living, and that's retired Captain Jimmy Stanford. We keep in touch with Facebook. Sometimes he calls me, but he was a racist. And he told me, he said, I was raised in Texas, and that's how you were raised. You were raised to not like black people. And,
Wow.
call him the N word, and it was normal. Well,
Saved his
he said, but now, and he keeps a picture of Skipper, that's what we call my cousin, on his wall. And every morning he says he wakes up and he looks at the picture and he said, why me? Because he too saw the grenade. He froze.
wow.
My cousin saw the grenade and made the ultimate sacrifice.
And I remember when they did a play about that,
Yes.
and it's interesting that the person who played the lead happens to be my accountant. So he's an actor, but he also, a businessman. And
Mhm.
I think it's fascinating that people who have had such a major impact on our society, uh, many of them, their stories have not yet been told because there's nobody to tell them. So, to see somebody who's a direct connection to something of such major historic value, that just lets you know that everybody makes a difference. Everybody has an impact in the world we're living in. And so we're going to
And
get a lot.
speaking about the world we living in, it was Trump who ordered the removal of my cousin's name from all of the federal websites because
Mm,
he's black.
and this is
And
why.
he was a 5 times draft dodger. You hear
Mm.
that? That's
And
Trump
see,
I'm talking.
oh, yeah. And see, this is why we must have our own media, because
Yes,
other people, if they get an opportunity to tell their story, our story, they'll erase it from the history books. So we must have our own books. We must have our own news publications. We must have our own websites. We must have our own radio, TV, networks. Everything that gives information, we must own it so that no
and it's
one
not
shuts us down.
right, and it's not because we were racist either. Because Harold Washington used to tell the reporters, "I'm pro-black, but that does not mean I'm racist. I'm just for my people."
That's right. And that's what you're
And a
supposed
lot
to
of people think if you are so African American, into your own people, that you're racist. I'm not a racist. I was raised around Jews and Italians.
do.
And my grandfather used to take me to Maxwell Street. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love,
Back.
I loved it, and he taught me how to bargain with the vegetables. And the
Yeah.
workers, they loved me because I would get down to 5 cents, 4 cents, whatever it
Oh,
was.
wow. You knew how to bargain.
Yeah, he taught me that.
Part of the
So
culture.
I appreciate diversity a lot
Mhm.
because that is
And
America. But Trump doesn't understand that, and he is the grandson of an immigrant. His wife is an immigrant. Her parents are immigrants. Why is he so anti-immigrants?
I
I
keep
don't
telling
understand that.
people, don't panic. What is he, 80 something years old? Last term. Everything that he's done is just giving us an opportunity for those who weren't upset enough to get involved, for us to get the energy to do what's
The hope.
necessary to create what we need so this will never happen again. Now we know that we must own everything that we use so that no one can take it away. And so everything that he's done that's negative, we'll just undo it when he gets out. So don't panic. Just be prepared.
But
Plan.
we have to be. You said the magic word. We have to be prepared because if we're not we're not voting. Like we stayed home. There were millions of us who stayed at home. They went fishing, as some people call it. You
Mhm.
can't do that in next year.
Now you know. Now you know this is the consequence of doing nothing. Then other people control your future. Well, we got to take another quick break. When we come back,
Okay.
we're going to look at some of the upcoming stories and things that you may be bringing us with on the case with Chinta Strausberg. Some of the inside story of civil rights, of human rights, of all kinds of things that we see in the news, but we don't always get the inside story from our own reporters. So we'll be right back. We're going to greet our global family listening and watching all around the world. So we'll be right back. You stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment. So stay with us.
All right.
We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadef. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. Join us live on the on-air radio network called 727-731-5192. We want to talk to you. Yes, we do want to talk to you, and we want you to talk to us too. And we got some people talking to us tonight. Oh, Zelda Robinson, our Monday morning mindfulness host, says, OMG! Oh my God! Chinta now a member of the Female Solution. Awesome! Welcome, sis.
Hello, Zelda. Hello, Zelda.
Yes, another veteran news person, radio, TV, talk show host, and we just have a wealth of experience and people who are highly connected and people who know what's happening in the world so they can bring you some information. So yes, we're very excited with our newest member of the family. And I know that a lot of people are looking forward to the kind of work that you bring, especially because you keep your ear to the ground. You know what's going on, and you know the people who make things happen. You've been through all levels of government. You've featured many different elected officials on your programs and interviewed. There's so many people who are trying to be elected officials, people who are elected officials, people who are in business, people who make decisions, and you even know some of the inside dirt that we don't all hear about, but
and can never tell.
Yeah, can't always tell it.
Listen, if I told what I knew, I'd be in the bottom of Lake Michigan with cement on my feet. But reporters have to keep confidentiality.
Well, that is true, and that's one of the reasons why you've been a good reporter, because people can trust you. You know, they know if they say this is off the record, it doesn't end up blasted all on the headlines, you know, because trust is important. And you do have to get people to be willing to tell you things that they can't openly say or have their name attributed to it. That's all part of it. But, you know, we're going through a major shift with civil rights. You know, people are seeing a lot of backlash. There's the issues with ICE and immigration. There's, you know, all kinds of upheavals with our international relations. And there's a lot of fear in the nation right now. People went through a whole scare with the SNAP benefits and, oh, how am I going to eat? You know, and some people just went full scale, went off, raiding all the food pantries, afraid they were going to starve. And so there's a lot of fear, a lot of belief that we're not going to be able to survive. And so people need a word. People need to hear
We need hope.
from those who we need hope. And speaking of hope, keep hope alive. You've been a long time supporter and reporter for Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition. Such a powerful voice that people look to for leadership, and they want him here, and men like him who have shaped several generations. We look for those who can get statements from him and who really
his voice is not here anymore, and we do miss his voice. We do need him. That's why it was important for him to be at the Saturday Rainbow Push Coalition broadcast, because people at least could see him, even though he's in a wheelchair and he can't really talk. But just the presence of him and what he represented, running for presidency in 1984 and 1988. And with those two runs, he put on more than 2 million voters across the nation. And what did that produce? More elected Black officials than ever before.
Yes, it did.
So, he's paved the way. And I'm just praying that even though he has a fatal brain disorder now, I just believe in miracles. I believe in miracles, Naima, because when I was almost 7 years old, I was asthmatic since I've been 9 months old. And I had a severe asthma attack. And my mom was a nurse. She would rush home, give me a shot of adrenaline, go back to work because she loved to work. And but it didn't work this time. And she called the fire department, and they couldn't resuscitate me, put a sheet over me, took me to Cook County Hospital. Wow. That's when we were still living in my grandfather's house in Chicago. And the doctors couldn't revive me. Put the sheet back over me, and I had a very weird experience. It was like I was up in the air looking down at my mom crying. I had never seen my mother cry before. And then all of a sudden I heard my grandmother. I heard footsteps. And I heard footsteps, and all I heard was her voice saying Jesus. And she kept saying Jesus. And she ran into the emergency room. She snatched the sheet off me, and all she would say was Jesus. And one Oriental doctor, saw a vital sign. And that's the only reason why I'm here today. I believe in miracles. And I am praying for Reverend Jackson to have a miracle too.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, what you've had, which is what we've talked about and what many have experienced, a near-death experience where you crossed over to the other side for a minute, where you're out of body.
They did. They were rolling me to the hospital morgue.
Yes, but it wasn't your time to go because you're supposed to be here doing what you're doing right now. So,
former Alderman Wallace Davis had the same experience, remember?
Wow.
He had someone robbed his shop, and he called the police. The police shot him.
I remember that.
He was in the morgue, and a nurse saw his toe wiggle, and that's why he's still here today. And former Congressman Roland Burris, same thing. He had a same experience. It happens. It's just weird.
I hope that some of the people, it's people who've had those kind of experiences, because of course I am very fascinated, and I've been studying because I had an experience, but I wasn't dead either. I mean, I had major out-of-body experiences after my husband passed away, and I was the one that was, but that's another whole story. That's another whole show in itself. But I've seen the other side. I've been there, and so I know that when it's not your time to go, you don't leave until you're done with the work you came to do.
I believe that.
And I know Reverend Jackson, he's like, he ain't ready to go. He's just, still going to keep orchestrating and everything. And the good thing, though, is that we're able to now see the power of his family, his children. They've all stepped up.
I am so proud of them. I am so proud of Yusef and Jonathan and Jesse Jr. has stepped up.
Yes.
I'm just so very proud of them. They love their father so much.
Yeah. And
He's
I know that
always
Santita
sure.
as the eldest, you know, she's really shouldering a lot and keeping her show going. That's a
Right.
powerful sister right there. Because you know, I know what it that female energy that actually feeds everybody else and keeps going when everybody else is wore out. So
Mhm.
I know that
But my
that's
hat is off to Mrs. Jackson too, because few people know that she was and still is the wind underneath Reverend Jackson's
oh
wings. She was
yeah.
the one who went to different countries and paved the way for him to go to get those hostages. This little woman did this.
Oh yes. And see, these are the kind of insights that you can give an
Yep.
audience because you've been there, you've seen things, you know the inside story that a lot of people aren't privy to, and that's what can give us more appreciation of a lot of these unsung heroes in our midst, a lot of people who are literally changing the world and have changed the world. We want to hear those stories, so that's why I'm so excited that you're with us, because we get to hear and see and comprehend the greatness in our midst, because sometimes we miss it. Sometimes we take people for granted, or we believe the propaganda. And
Yes.
other news media isn't going to uplift our heroes. They're not going to give us those great stories because they want us to not feel good about ourselves. They
Mhm.
want us to think that we're helpless and we have to wait for them to tell us what to do.
But I also want to. I'd like you to have your ask for your prayers for Angel Glover. She is the daughter of Cat Glover, who was Prince's lead dancer. That's my first cousin, because her three daughters are having a hard time with her death, and I counsel them. I counsel Angel because the twins have just disappeared. I console her because she keeps thinking about her mom, and it's I'm just worried about her right now. So if you can just say a prayer for her.
Well, we certainly, our prayers for her. And of course, Women in Ministry in Chicago says, congratulations on your new show. So great to be introducing this tonight. You know, that's one of the shows that, and probably even a series, I see people struggle with death and grief.
Yes,
And I wrote a book after the passing of my husband that I had experiences that changed my whole life. It changed my
yes,
whole trajectory because, like I said, I had that out of body experience where I crossed over to the other side and was able to communicate with him after he had left. And
wow,
I actually, because he was going through cancer, and before he left here, I made him promise, look, I know we got a religion, but when you get to the other side, I want you to figure out how to come back and tell me what's really going on. And he kept his
wow.
promise. And that's what's in the book. But of
See,
course,
well, you
yeah.
were lucky you were able to do that when my husband was killed. We were
Mm,
on our honeymoon,
mm,
and he was killed. So I've had a hard time dealing with that. And
um,
I was on the number 4 Cottage Grove bus one day. And you remember Hales Franciscan when it was an all boys school? There was a sign outside, and it said, "Don't." He stops tripping over your past, because if you don't, you'll have no future. And I turned
mm,
around and I looked at it, and it was on the other side too, and it hit me like a rock because I had been like in mourning for 10 years.
wow.
And, that helped me a lot. But it's hard when you lose a spouse or
Yeah.
anyone. My
Oh, for
grandmother,
sure. And that's one of the things. And of course, like I said, that's a whole show in itself. But
absolutely.
his remaining connection to me in the spirit realm, it has literally changed my life. I'm a multidimensional being. I go from this world to the next at
Mhm,
will because I learned how to do that after my husband's transition. And there
mhm.
are people who are learning that we're spirit and our bodies are just temporary houses for an eternal spirit. So that perspective helps you to get through the, I mean, we're always going to miss them when they're gone, but it
Right.
helps you get through the grief of their loss because you realize they're not gone. They're just in another dimension, waiting for you when you're done with your earthly assignment. So to know that for certain, because that's what I asked him, I need you to tell me for certain. Yeah, I know would be your taught, but I need you to come back and tell me for sure. And since then, I've never had fear. I don't fear death. I don't grieve. I understand. I truly understand eternal life. But I
Right.
also want to share that with others who are in pain because they've lost someone, and
Absolutely.
especially if it was sudden and there's a feeling that it wasn't supposed to happen. But what I've learned since then is that we plan our exit just like we plan our entry. Nothing is accidental. And so when a person leaves their body, it's because their assignment is up, and this is just a temporary school for our development. And so that has helped me a lot.
Hmm.
But I know you've dealt with a lot of people who have faced grief. And
And I've helped them because of my grief. Because I never thought that we were supposed to honeymoon in Michigan because my grandmother lived there and he loved my grandmother. They would get in arguments. He would say the Torah was the best thing, and she would say the Bible, and she'd start quoting from the Bible, and he started quoting from the Torah. They were driving me crazy. So he bought me a house, a
oh wow.
5 bedroom house, and because we were supposed to go to Israel to live
Oh my.
permanently. So he bought me a 5 room house, and we went from deciding not to have any children. He wanted 13.
Oh my. Oh my. And that was all me and my husband's joke because I always talk about I wanted 10 children. After the
See,
first one, I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. I can do that 9 more times. You know? But when you have those kind of visions, and it's hard when you're young and widowed. So
I was 21.
oh, that is hard. That is very hard.
Yep.
But it also, and what I've learned is that when a person leaves, they're really still helping you from the other side, whether it's motivation, whatever it is, but they didn't really leave you. They're just not physically present in
Right.
this realm. But it is a very big challenge
Yes.
to lose a life partner, and you can help somebody through it when you've been through it.
And someone who really loves you too. It's
Yes,
yeah.
yes, it is hard. So my prayers for the sister who is going through that grief. I do understand it, and I can say for certain the pain doesn't last always, but you have to understand they don't want you to grieve
Right.
because they need you to focus on your assignment. Your assignment is not up. You came here for a reason. They don't want you to grieve. They want you to go on and just, they're patiently waiting for when you all meet again.
Yeah. Because Angel, I gave her hope, and she's having a difficult time with her mom's death, and I just give her hope and a rope of hope, and she clings to that.
Yes, a rope of hope. Well, a lot of what has affected our nation in terms of news has been the death of people, the death of major figures. We had a recent assassination right on live TV. It was horrific. You know, people who, and you have to be sensitive to those things. People who was it Charlie Kirk? People who loved him or hated him or whatever. You have to realize someone is grieving because they saw their loved one killed right in front of their face. That's horrific.
It
And
is.
so, I really was hoping that people would be sensitive to that, regardless of the politics.
Right.
It's a human situation. And of course, Women in Ministry says Power of Women awardee Shiro Chinta Strausberg continues to service in love 2025. Yes. Yes, you have definitely been recognized as one who is making a difference, and you can only have wisdom when you've been through some challenges in life. That's what I've learned.
I've had challenges, my dear. You have no idea.
Oh yes. Well, we're going to take one last quick. Well, no, I guess we're about to wrap up. I won't take up any more time on a break because there's some things I want to make sure that you're able to tell our viewers, because Friday nights we're looking forward to hearing a lot of the insight that you bring to the news, to world events, to actions that are taking place. The big thing right now that's being all over the internet, this this woman and her children that were jumped by students. Everybody's upset
Yes.
about that. And it says a lot about our culture. But what are some of the things that you're looking forward to bringing us in terms of issues, perhaps, guests, people, those who can give us some kind of word of wisdom?
Well, my next guest is going to be Congressman Danny K. Davis.
Oh,
He's
my favorite.
confirmed for next Friday, and the following Friday is going to be Reverend Jose Hines from Mississippi,
All right.
Jackson, Mississippi.
Ooh,
He's just a
Mississippi.
great person. So I have
Wow.
those two, and of course we'll be talking politics and civil rights because that's my passion.
Yes, yes.
I can breathe it and eat it, smell it. I just love it. And I really kind of credit that too to Reverend Jackson because the way we grew up, we did not grow up being taught Black history. We didn't know anything about Black history. We were in a bubble in the suburbs, and we didn't have it in school. We didn't have it at home. My grandmother didn't teach her daughters. I guess they wanted to keep the dirty little secret away from us and protect us. So when I got out of high school, I took a course at the University of Chicago, Black History. Naima, it was a cultural shock.
Oh, I can imagine.
It
I
was,
can
and
imagine.
I've been every day. I'm learning more and more about Black history and what our people went through, and it's so painful. But we are the most forgiving people in the world.
Yes,
Just
we.
because they did all those horrible things to us, I don't hate white people. I can't because we weren't raised that way. I blame the system.
And what we teach our children is what they learn, and so
Yes.
that's again, it comes back to we must have Black institutions that we run, whether it is our schools, our hospitals, our religious institutions, everything, and definitely our businesses, everything that sustains us, we must control. We are grown up now, people. We got to take care of ourselves. What is that famous quote? One of my favorites, Reverend Jackson: nobody is going to save us, from us, for us, but us.
Absolutely, but parents have to do their jobs too. Because I got into an argument with one of my little nephews when he was 8 years old. When he told me he was white, I said, "What?" I said, "No, you're black. Don't you ever say that to me." So,
Wow.
and then I found out recently he voted for Trump.
Well, a lot of people did, and I think you have to realize we're experiencing the consequences of that decision so that we
Yes,
can in the future make better decisions. How many people admired him and saw him on The Apprentice and thought it was so cute when he called, "You're fired," and how mean he was? And they admired that. They admire wealth, they admire power, they admire ruthlessness. So now you get to experience what it feels like when you elect someone with those values as your leader. Now you get to experience it so that next time you know how to make a better choice.
and he's
Everything
targeting
is
black people and brown people. The ICE agents, they
wrong.
have admitted they're looking for brown people. Can you imagine someone even saying that?
I know it's horrific. So this is why the voices that you bring us are so critical, because they're people who are going to give us hope, not just hope, but faith, belief, and action.
Yes.
We will have a game plan so that we are prepared to take over every industry that affects our lives, so that we never again are complaining about what other people aren't doing for us, because we're doing it for ourselves.
And
And this
education is key.
education is key. We've got to control the narrative. We've got to control the story. It's got to be our voice that tells that story. And that's why Chinta Strausberg is going to be on the case.
Thank you so much, Naima Latif.
But thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be excited. You're going to have one of my favorite congressmen on, Danny Davis. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there to say, hey.
Thank you.
Definitely. And thank you for all that you've done and all that you're going to do in making this world a better place.
My passion. Thank you.
Yes. And thank you all for joining us. And come on back tomorrow, Saturday, of course. As always, you will have a chance to watch the virtual global teen talent competition tomorrow and on Saturday. And of course, we're excited because we always bring you wonderful talent from around the world, hosted by our own Zelda Robinson. And until that time, we want you all to continue to shine your light. We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, zhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, Ngiyabonga. Senegal, Jareth. Kenya, Asante. Israel, Toda. Pakistan, Shukriya. Afghanistan, Tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.